Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Canada, Vice President of Sales for EPSG. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. This is a very general overview of our industry, our philosophy on sales, and how you operate within the environment here at EPSG. So again, this is your preliminary phase of it. There'll be continuing training that a lot of this will be expanded upon within our back office. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get us kicked off here. All right, here's our agenda. I'm going to go over this very briefly. We're going to go into about the company, where we came from as an organization, a brief overview of the industry and how it functions, a little bit about our competition and what you will see out there in the market, our pricing structures and how we make revenue off of businesses, which will also cover our different philosophies on pricing, the sales process, again, a bird's eye view from that, product overview, our application package and process flow, and our back office, and then finally, most importantly, how do we go out there and make a little bit of money, or a lot of money. All right, so we're going to dive into a little bit about the organization. EPSG, established by two entrepreneurs, Brett Sturm and Rich Ross, in 2006 as an organization named originally Evo Platinum Services Group, which is what that acronym EPSG actually stands for. Evo Platinum Services Group, as it was formerly named, started as an internal sales division of the industry powerhouse that is Evo Payments International and resides at their corporate offices in Melville, New York. Evo Payments International now stands as one of the largest and most successful merchant acquirers within the business. And we have activities in 50 markets and 130 currencies around the world. This positions Evo Payments International among the largest fully integrated merchant acquirers and payment processors in the United States. And we'll talk a little bit about what a merchant acquirer and what a payment processor is here in just a few minutes. Moving on to where we are currently, as a rapidly growing organization within Evo Platinum Services Group set out to begin building our independent brand that became what we are now today as EPSG in 2015. EPSG now supports our sales partners coast to coast with one of the most highly regarded support platforms within the industry. EPSG, as it has since its inception, remains committed to working aggressively to stay in the forefront of technology and provide true solutions for our partners across the country. This focus has offered a wide range of innovative products and services that will facilitate the growth opportunities for our partners and businesses we are committed to support. So that's just a brief overview of kind of our mission statement, what we're here to do, and the fact that we want to provide you with a best-in-class environment so that you can grow your portfolio and your independence in that freedom of wealth. So just kind of a little bit brief things about what we have to offer as a company. And these are just a few bullet points out of the many, obviously. We bring fastest pay in the industry. We do pay on a daily basis. We pay upfront a combination of upfront commissions and residual producing portfolio. We have lifetime residuals for those that go and earn that. Optics program, which is our long-term wealth program that we will speak about just here in a few minutes. We also have daily cash contests, prizes, and regular trips that we do all the time as incentive programs. We also have an approach that gives you multiple products that you can go and offer businesses that are true business solutions. So we're going to kind of dive into those a little bit as well. And one thing important that we like to point out is that we haven't missed a residual payment in over 10 years. And so anybody who's come from within the industry, who's been with the competitor before, will understand that that's obviously a very important aspect of what we have here, consistency. So our optics program is the first thing we're going to talk about here. As you can see at the top, see a brighter future. That's our mission statement for this program. Originally, this was created several years back to give some of our new partners that come to our business an opportunity to earn some long-term wealth while continuing to stay committed to us as an organization and that loyalty. As you could probably imagine, there's a lot of companies out there that do what we do. And so in order to provide a good experience, we have to get people to want to recognize and understand what we have to offer in the first place. And so Optics gives us a multifaceted approach to set goals, bonuses, trips, things like that. So with a three-pronged approach here, I'm going to kind of break this down a little bit. Our first part of optics is our vesting program. So this is the major part of optics, which is a long-term goal that we set for all of our top partners. As you can see over here to the left, this is based on the amount of monthly margin that you accumulate collectively between us as a company and you as a sales partner that adds back into optics. As you can see, each one of these tiers correlates with an amount that will be banked for you based on our vesting schedule over a 3-year, 4-year, and 5-year period. So if we just take one number here, if we go all the way to the top, if you notice here, it breaks it down to the average annual margin, not monthly margin in this case, and that equals out to $50,000. Now, if you were to stay with us for a total of 5 years, you are now vested at 100%. So each one of those years, you're now banking $50,000 over a course of 5 years if you're able to reach this $150,000 average annual mark, which equates to $250,000 in cash that we will cut you a check for once you've achieved that level. And yes, it is very difficult, obviously, to get to that top tier, what we use as an example, but there are many of our sales partners that have hit that and will continue to hit that in the future. So that's just another offering that we have here to reward you and incentivize you for being loyal to us. And it's our way of saying thank you for staying a true partner of ours for a minimum of 5 years. Then we have our Escape. Our Escape is an annual trip that we do every single year. And we generally bring all of our top partners, our top producing partners, to a place that we pick somewhere new every year. We've gone on cruises before. We've done trips to Mexico, trips to the Dominican Republic. So, obviously each year we'll continue to build on that. And really looking forward to what each year has to bring and some time with our partners. So this is something we hope everybody can go and work towards and achieve. And it's a great opportunity to share experiences, things like that, with some of our top partners in the organization. And so Elite is our new addition to the optics team. It's our quarterly achievement that we recognize our top partners with. And Elite gives the opportunity for a little bit of travel. We generally do a long weekend. It's a trip for two. We pay all inclusive. Hotels, meals. You can bring a spouse, a child of yours, a friend, whatever it is, and we try to make it a little bit fun. It's somewhere you pick within the continental United States, and a really awesome experience that is more of a short-term goal that you can set for yourself. So that encompasses optics in general. There's 3 tiers, like I said before, and each one of those is readily available for you to go and earn and achieve. Now we're going to move on to a little bit of a brief overview on the industry. We're going to start out talking about the payment types that EPSG accepts here. So what we are is we're a transactional-based organization, and that doesn't just mean credit cards and debit cards. We like to be able to take in any type of electronic transfer of funds that's out there and give the customers every opportunity to never turn down a payment type. So if we'll look through the list here, some of these are ones that obviously you're very familiar with: Visa, MasterCard, debit transactions, PIN-based debit transactions, EMV, which is EuroPay, MasterCard, Visa. We'll talk about that a little bit deeper. Those are the chip cards. Our Discover cards, and some very important international cards that you may not see on a regular basis, but those markets that are tourism-based, seasonal, things like that. We'll see a lot of these. JCB, Diners Club International, not so prevalent anymore. China Union Pay, which is obviously very big in the Far East, and Dynacard. Next one is a very big name, obviously PayPal. We can facilitate the transfer of those funds. American Express with their new OptBlue program, which we'll also get into here in a little bit. Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, which is the new hot trend in NFC, which is near field communication type of transfers of transactions. And fleet cards, which would be Voyager, Ride Express. Not sure if you've ever seen on a gas pump, whenever you go, the logos for Voyager, Ride Express. That gives fleet vehicles that are part of a large organization that have multiple vehicles out there doing work out in the field, the ability to get gas, get repairs, things like that. Electronic benefits transfer, which is food stamps, now on cards, and it's swiped just like a normal credit card would be. Electronic check service, which is a bank draft, so that gives gym memberships and service memberships the ability to draft a bank account as opposed to just running a credit card. And then gift and loyalty cards, which everybody will tend to use on occasion. You get your points, your cash back, things like that from your business. And then obviously gift cards for the holidays and birthdays and things like that. Now we're going to move into how the industry looks from a structure standpoint. Some of the key participants here, bank card associations, these are the important ones, which is Visa, MasterCard, are responsible for setting the transaction terms and associated fees for merchant and card issuers. An issuer or issuing bank is a financial institution such as Citibank, Chase, Bank of America, these large banks that actually provide the cards to their customers and the ability to run transactions from the account that they have with that correlating bank. An issuer is also a licensed member of Visa MasterCard associations, so they hold contractual agreements to issue credit cards with a Visa or MasterCard logo. Next is the acquirer, which is where we come into play. Acquirers process the merchant's transactions and credits payment to the merchant's account. Acquirers are also so named because they acquire a merchant's sales tickets and credit the order value to the merchant's account. An acquirer may also be known as an acquiring bank, and EVO is an acquirer, which, as you saw before, is our partner. And then you go into processors, which are generally smaller organizations out there, very important in the process. They're companies that send information between the acquirers and the associations and the issuers. So they're the ones that really move the money around. And then acquirers are the ones that go through the entirety of the process of authorizing the card, settling the card into the merchant's bank account. So, something I always like to point out is all acquirers are processors, but not all processors are acquirers. It just depends on the capability and the size of your organization in order to process those funds all the way through as an acquirer. And then we continue on as we go down the levels here in ISO, which is an independent sales office or organization who brokers account for merchant processing or servicing. Now, ISO is not an acquirer. ISO can work with an acquirer or a processor to reduce the overhead costs of running a sales organization. And just to clarify, there's different ways to look at who is and who is not an ISO. You on the other end of this phone are technically considered an ISO because you work with us as a acquirer processor to gain access to be able to help your customers take transactions through our company. Now, because we see you as a partner of ours and truly part of the organization, we call our partners ISOs, but from a legal terminology, you are an ISO. The next one is a merchant. Pretty self-explanatory. Anybody who wants to currently or has in the past accepted credit card transactions, or basically this is our target market, is any merchant out there in the business. Next is cardholder, which is you and I as a consumer walking into a business to be able to swipe our cards in order to purchase goods or services. Now we're going to talk about what front-end and back-end processing is and what identifies a acquirer versus a processor. So a front-end process involves the transfer of information between networks by sending the data that was captured on a swipe at the point of sale. The front end will generate the authorization of the transaction and indicate either an approval or decline of the transaction. This is basically your approval process. Whenever you swipe your card at a merchant's location, what we need for the approval code to come through, it's an authorization or a decline. It has to go one way or the other. So if it's authorized, then the back end begins to pick it up. So after that merchant's bank account settles, or that merchant's point of sale settles at the end of the day, then the back end processing will then pick that up, transfers the financial information between both the issuers and the acquirers. The back end prepares the clearing and settlement data, which is transmitted to the associations, Visa, MasterCard, or MasterCard interchange. The entire settlement process can take up to 72 hours, or sometimes as little as 18 hours sometimes. And then we bring in interchange, which Visa MasterCard interchange is a system of rates and item fees developed by the associations. Every transaction that a merchant runs is charged an associated fee. This is our cost of doing business. This is what we apply all of our data to in order to price a merchant out so that we can show a profit margin on top of that. So We pay that out to the associations, to Visa and MasterCard for their interchange for running the cards. And we'll get into how that functions a little bit here in a second. And then we tack our profit margin on top of that. And that's how we make money as an organization. That's how you make money as a partner of ours. Now, here's a brief overview of the transaction process. Now, generally what you see whenever you're a consumer is what you see here. You walk into a merchant's location, you enter your chip card or swipe it based on what type of card you're looking at, and then you walk out with whatever goods or services you just paid for. But on the back end, what's happening is you as the consumer walk into the business, goes through the issuing bank, which is whoever issued your credit card at that point, communicates through the card associations. The card association says, yes, this is a valid transaction. A valid transaction. The issuing bank already authorized it. Then it goes through the acquiring bank, which is our side of things, in order to move that money over to the merchant. So we are then depositing bank account. All of this also goes to the Federal Reserve Bank for approval in a pretty quick fashion as well. Obviously, the government has to be involved in all of the financial transactions with banks, so that's their portion of it that they get involved in. Now, here's the actual transaction process itself. The first part is the authorization. This is a process that verifies the cardholder's credit card is valid, has not exceeded the credit limit, and can reserve the transaction amount on the credit account. So if you've ever looked at your bank account after sliding a debit card or a credit card or entering it as a chip, and you will notice sometimes that there is a pending notice on there. So the transaction hasn't actually settled into the merchant's bank account and gone through the entirety of the process. You're just in the authorization phase right now, which is why it's just pending, but it reserves that amount of money on that card to make sure that you don't go and overspend what should be deposited in the merchant's bank account. So the process is done in an electronic message sent from the terminal and can be authorized on request. The authorization is transmitted to the front end, and the reply given back from the front end is called the authorization response. The process happens in real time. So this all happens very instantly. Whenever you get that approval back, that means that that transaction is okay and you're good to walk away from it. The rest of the process will be picked up by the point of sale equipment and us as an acquirer. So that next step, which is when we start to get involved, is whenever that merchant was what's called a batch at the end of the day, into the night, whenever they choose to do so, is a group of credit card and debit card transactions made during a specific time, again, usually one business day. Batches can include transactions waiting for settlement or authorization. The batch is transmitted to the acquirer or processor front end for completion. So that goes through us as a process once the merchant initiates that batch, so that we can begin our process of settling into their account. Then that brings up the settlement. Credit card settlement is a process where transactions are passed through the interchange network to the issuing bank for payment. The funds are then forwarded back to the acquirer's bank and ACH to the merchant. This process can take, again, up to 72 hours. We could do it as little as 18. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our competition. So this kind of just shows a chart of where everybody lies within the industry. So obviously you've got Visa and MasterCard up at the top. This gives them the ability to basically run the transactions. They're the ones that allow the transactions to occur. They apply interchange from the very beginning. Acquirers, which is where some of your large organizations run. Evo First Data is a very big company. And then you've got our very large banks, Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase. There's some others out there, obviously. And then this is where the typical ISO or independent sales organization stands. Now, something to know here is that banks don't actually do the processing. Now, they can own companies that do the processing. They can help facilitate the process. Obviously, they can issue cards. But whenever it comes to processing the entirety of the transaction, they have to go through an acquirer like us. So whenever you're working as an ISO and you see your competition out there is with Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, or Chase, or one of these other large banks, you can go into this business knowing that there is an ability to save a lot of money because there's a lot of hands in the cookie jar. So what we do here is pull that middleman out of the process and go straight to the source as a wholesale type of setup. So something important to note and something important to speak to a merchant about whenever you're talking to them is to say, look, you're a retail store. You don't go to another retail store like Target or Walmart or somewhere like that to buy the items on your shelves. You go through a wholesale distributor. So why would you not do that for all aspects of your business, including your processing, where you can go directly to the source as an acquirer, like we are here? EPSG is partnered with Evo to go directly to that source to be able to get your processing as well. Not only cutting down your bottom line, but giving you access and that sense of security with the strong backbone of a company like Evo and EPSG as a team. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the pricing structure. Now, interchange. We spoke a little bit about interchange before. It's our cost of doing business. That's the best way to describe it. So, what is interchange? Visa MasterCard interchange is a system of rates developed by the card associations. These rates are charged for the acceptance of credit cards and are not negotiable. For every transaction that a merchant runs, there will be an associated interchange rate. Each rate is directly related to the specific credit card type being used by the cardholder. Interchange is also driven by a perceived risk. Interchange is designed to compensate Visa MasterCard issuing member banks for the risk associated for the transaction. So again, risk is involved in everything that we do here. So it's very important for us to realize that interchange is not just a random set of rate structures that we put out there or that Visa MasterCard decides. In fact, Congress gets involved in this on how much they can charge and how much is too much and things like that. But you got to understand that risk is designed around a lot of things, and we're going to talk about that now. So what is risk? Some risk may contribute to customers not paying their credit card bills or fraudulent merchant activity. In addition to the risk, many card types carry perks and incentives, and a lot of people don't understand this, that it is more expensive for that merchant to accept these types of cards with perks and incentives. These reward types incentives would result in a higher interchange level. The additional increase would cover the added cost of the issuing. Examples are airline miles, points in exchange for various products, gift cards, things like that, cash back, any of those types of cards out there that do that. That also includes higher types of risk, which is business and corporate cards, and international cards will fall in those higher risk categories, which would then make the interchange be a little bit more expensive, which means our cost gets more expensive, and that gets passed on to the merchant. So again, a lot of people don't understand that the merchant is the one that's sending you on all of those trips and things like that. After you spend your money, you get that cash back or those airline miles. They're the ones that actually eat the cost on that side. There's two main types of pricing structures that we use here at EPSG. There's also a third type of it we're going to talk about here in a little bit. First off, Interchange Plus is now the one that we generally use on most of our businesses. It's now the most commonly used pricing structure in the industry as well. This pricing structure is sometimes referred to as wholesale pricing because the margin is revealed and there are no additional surcharges or downgrades above what our cost is. Interchange Plus pricing uses the rates determined by Visa and MasterCard associations. The plus refers to a fixed markup that is applied directly to the interchange fees. This markup produces a profit for both the agents and the acquirers. So we make money, the agent, our partner makes money, and that's all above and beyond whatever that interchange fee is for that individual card type. You may also hear of dues, fees, and assessments. These fees are added by the associations for processing through their networks and for use of their branding. In other words, just additional fees that they pass on to us that we then in turn pass on to the merchant for processing those transactions. Interchange Plus has proven to be a more competitive pricing structure, most importantly because, again, we are revealing how much margin we are making off of that individual business. There's no smoke and mirrors. We pull the veil of the secrecy on how this works and present the merchant with a true factual way of understanding how we make money as a business and how they spend money as a business. Now we will go into tiered pricing. So, tiered pricing is what our competitors will use on occasion. This pricing structure was formerly the most commonly used pricing method. In tiered pricing, typically there are three different tiers. The acquirer processor groups those card types into these common tier levels: qualified, mid-qualified, and non-qualified. The tiers are created by the acquirer processor, not by the associations, and are not mandated. These tier groups are set by certain parameters that integrate interchange categories into a range. The range blends the highest and the lowest in any particular merchant category. So something interesting to think about there, if you've got a blend of all of the highest and the lowest, if you start taking a lot of card types that are on the lowest end of that tier, you end up not getting a very big benefit at all from using the pricing because you're taking so many of those card types. And one of those examples is a debit card transaction. And tiered pricing, a debit card transaction will be charged an extremely high amount for what type of transaction it is and the true cost of that. So something interesting to think about if you ever see tiered pricing, there's generally a lot of revenue that is sitting in that deal that we can take on and help produce for the merchant and make a little bit more money for us as an organization as well. So something to keep in mind there. And here's how the tiered pricing breaks down. First one is a qualified rate. These rates are also known as the discount rate and offline debit discount rate. The qualified rate is applied whenever a merchant accepts a regular consumer credit card and then processes that card in a manner understood as the standard. The rate usually the lowest rate a merchant will incur while accepting a credit card. So again, back to the debit card, generally debit card transactions will fall into that qualified rate, which means that they're paying a much higher fee for the transaction than they would for any others. The standard qualified rate is defined by the acquiring processor and is stated on the merchant contract agreement. The merchant needs to abide by the defined standard to ensure the qualified rate. So it's all about how they take that transaction as well. And we're going to go into what a mid-qualified rate will, and that'll help explain it a little bit more. The mid-qualified rate is the percentage rate a merchant will be charged whenever they accept a credit card that does not qualify for the lowest rate. Some reasons this may happen are a credit card is keyed into a terminal, so that the actual physical card is either damaged or not physically there in front of the merchant whenever they run it. So think of, pizza delivery, a food delivery, online shopping, anything like that will fall into a mid-qualified rate because the card is not physically there at the time of the transaction. So speaking of the risk that we were talking about before, this has an added risk that goes along with it because you can't actually check the identification against what card is being used to ensure that that person is actually the person on the other end of the phone or on the computer running that transaction. So something to think about, a little bit higher risk there. It could also be an exclusive card type, such as a rewards-driven card or signature enhanced or world card or travel card, points, cash back, any of that kind of stuff that goes into what we were talking about before. It's a little bit higher of a cost. Or it could also be because it was not settled within 2 days of the authorization, which leaves a little bit of risk out there because somebody could have that pending on their account for several days and then they don't know what the transaction is and they can charge it back. Mid-qualified rates are added to the qualified rates and not either or. So it's in addition to. Same thing with non-qualified. Non-qualified rate is usually the highest percentage rate in a tiered structure. In many cases, any transaction that does not meet the qualified or mid-qualified rate levels will be charged the non-qualified rate, which is again a much higher rate index. This may happen for several reasons, such as it's an exclusive card type being used, such as a business, corporate, international, and purchasing cards, among many others. These cards would downgrade simply because the qualified rate is not high enough to cover their actual interchange rate, so that acquirer or processor is putting them in that higher tier to make sure that they end up profitable whenever the transaction is run. A merchant does not settle their daily batch within the allotted time. This is usually between 48 to 72 hours, sort of like our mid-qualified portion of that. In the same manner as mid-qualified rates are, non-qualified rates are also added to the qualified rates, not either or. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how we break this down. So the markup, which is also to us known as basis points. So basis points can come as either a percentage or a decimal, and we're going to show you a little bit about how that breaks down. So both of these show 50 basis points, you can see here. So at 50 basis points as a percentage, what we do is we take the volume, in this case is 60,000. So the volume times 0.5%. So again, 50 basis points looks like this, 0.5% as a percentage. So we'll take 60,000 as our volume, that the merchant transactions credit card volume, multiply it by 0.5%. That gives us a margin of $300 on that account. So if you're ever wondering how to price a merchant out, You want to make $300 on the account, 50 basis points times 60,000 is $300. A good way to understand that is for every $1,000, 10 basis points is $1. So 10 basis points is $1 per thousand. So at 10,000, at 10 basis points, you're making $10. At 100,000 at 10 basis points, you're making $100. So very simple math there. As a decimal point, 50 basis points look like this. It's take the volume, 60,000, multiply it by 0.005. So all you're doing is moving that decimal point 2 times. That gives you the same thing. 50 basis points as a decimal is 0.005, not percent, but 0.005 is a whole number. 60,000 times 0.005 gives you the same number at $300. So that's how we determine what the margin is for our merchants. Basis points contribute to the margin of revenue, which is a profit produced from the merchant account. For more information on margin, go to the campus page on our Epic back office and select Understanding Margin. So guys, this is a good opportunity to introduce our campus section. We have our back office. Once you go through the process of your hiring, you will get access to your back office. We call that Epic. Within Epic is our campus page. Our campus page is a wealth of knowledge for everything you need to know about this industry. Speaking specifically about this margin section of it, if you go into Understanding Margin, it will help you break down how to make money in this business, how we price out merchants, and the best course of action in order for you to make more revenue in your portfolio. So, why is Interchange Plus so beneficial? So we kind of talked about it before. The margin gets revealed. There's no hidden fees. It allows you to have full disclosure of rates with your merchant and creates trust between you and your customers. This gives you the ability to outline every dollar that you make off of them. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's no mystery to this. It takes out all of that shroud of mystery and allows you to have a real communication with the merchant about money and revenue and how much they're spending on this part of the process. Now we're going to get a little bit into the sales process. This is my favorite part of it. And this is not so much industry specific. A lot of this is going to be generalized in sales for the most part. So in this industry, there's two types of selling, two sides to selling merchant services. You're going to need a little bit of a combination of both of those in order to make this a successful career path. First part of it is cold calling. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally grew up in this industry doing this, so it's something that's second nature. Cold calling is going door to door, visiting merchants, going out there. You're not knowing who they are before. You don't have an invitation or an appointment. You're walking in the door. It's the first time you've ever seen them, and you immediately go into your pitch to try to get them to move over to utilize you as a processor. The next one is your VAR or referral. VAR stands for Value Added Reseller. This can be anybody in the business or out of the business that can send you over potential business as a referral partner. That is utilizing the current businesses that you generated by cold calling to generate a new referral. You can do this by networking. There's many ways to go and get referral partners. CPAs, law firms, doctors, anybody like that that's in a very, very broad, vast network will be able to give you a good opportunity to become a referral partner. Utilizing local banks, point of sale vendors, distributors, and accountants to send you business in exchange for monetary compensation. We will take care of them on the back end of it for them sending you business. So the idea behind this industry is if you cold call enough and you spend enough time building your portfolio out, you can then leverage that existing portfolio that you've built and all those relationships you built over time in order to send you business to where you don't have to go and cold call anymore. You have the business coming to you to build your portfolio. Now, here's a little something that we have from a philosophy standpoint that is how we like to see this business on our side. It's our way of looking at how you go. First thing is you got to have a positive attitude. Your attitude will make you millions. It is everything in business and life. The merchants out there will know and will see all over you if you have a bad attitude walking in there. In this industry, you will have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. That's just part of the nature of sales in general, not just us as an industry. It's about how you overcome those obstacles and how you present yourself to the merchant that's going to make you successful. Next thing is be on time. It's a big part of your integrity. We firmly believe in it. All true business men and women are on time, and it's not debatable. When it comes to setting appointments with merchants, you must be there a few minutes early, or you were considered late in my mind. I always say, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you forgot. So when it comes to merchants, their time is very valuable, and you've only got sometimes one shot at getting this business. And if you're late or you're not prepared for it, then that means that they're not going to be ready for you to do business with them, and there's a lot of trust at that point. So be professional. Next thing is be prepared, organize, plan, and think. Planning is the hardest part of this business and should never be rushed. Take your time on this. Schedule out your days appropriately. Try to avoid the time sitting in the vehicle trying to plan out when your next stop is, because you should have done that before you left for the day. Next is work a full day. This maintains consistency, momentum, and tempo. Never be home during the day. And I will say some of the best selling times are late in the afternoon, because everybody else has gone home and has gone tired. All the other salespeople out there, when you're out there knocking on doors, taking advantage of the time of these merchants have for you. Work your territory correctly, tighten to the right, use tracking sheets, and never prejudge a business. Also very important here, correctly learn how to go out and cold call. Whenever you're out there working and talking with business owners, make sure you hit every single door. You should not skip any, and never prejudge a business. Some of the best businesses to gain in this industry are in industrial areas, corporate parks, things like that don't have signs on the outside, that don't look very welcoming. But those are some of the best profiting merchants that don't get hit up by salespeople every single day. And our competition isn't walking in there either. So good opportunities there. Number 6 kind of goes back to number 1. Maintain a positive attitude. So sometimes during the day, some things happen. You have a bad morning. You've got some no's in there. Don't let your personal or business roadblocks trip you up. You got to keep pushing. You can only really control 2 things. That's your actions and your attitude. And if you've got control over both of those, you will be successful in this industry. The next thing is vision and goals. Everybody who's ever been successful ever, I can guarantee you, have set goals for themselves. How are they going to achieve that? The secret is constant checkpoints to keep you focused, and we hope you do this as well. Your Mr. Optics program before that gives you a 5-year goal to hit. We have our annual trip that gives you a 1-year goal to hit. We have quarterly incentive trips through our Elite program, which gives you one every 3 months that you can go and get. And then our management team and leadership also helps with monthly, weekly, and even daily goals of what we should be accomplishing out there in order to gain that success. We also do bonuses, like we said, to help incentivize you for that. I also think it's very important for you as a sales partner of ours to incentivize yourself and be able to reward yourself for achieving those goals. It's very important. Next thing is, last but not least, take control. Assertiveness is such an underrated quality in my mind. Be confident and pleasingly persistent. Remember, you're the expert. Now, a lot of times you will walk into a business, whenever you've got a merchant that's very aggressive, very confident in themselves, you've got to be that confident pushback to let them understand that you are the expert in this industry. You know what you're talking about. You're the one that's there to help them reduce their fees and their overhead, help them take care of their customers better, or help them gain more revenue in their business. So be assertive when you walk into that business, be confident, and stand tall. Next, we're going to go into what these steps to a sale are. This is very important. I'm going to briefly go over this because we're going to break it down a little bit more as we move on. You've got your intro, which is your elevator pitch, so to speak. This gives you the ability to get out what you need to in the very beginning, get to know the customer a little bit, create a personal relationship like it says there. Next is your short story. This is where you build your credibility. You explain your due diligence, how much you know about their organization, and then create a need. There's wants and there's needs. It's very important to change those wants into a need. We go over buzzwords, Jones effect, presentation. This is where you're going through why they should switch to an organization. We're a wholesale processor. We're a local sales rep, and this will be a seamless transition. The next is your close. Always close with action. It's very easy whenever those first three are executed correctly, because you should be able to walk right into a close every time if you've done it correctly. And then your yes. This is when you ask for referrals. This is when you ask where their neighbors are, if they know anybody else that has businesses, things like that. The best time to write a deal is right after you just got done writing the deal, because your confidence is high, you're excited about it, and everyone's going to see it all over you. So let's break these down a little bit. So the first part is your intro. This is the most important part of the pitch. Sometimes, someone makes a decision within the first 18 seconds of whether they want to buy from you or not. So make sure your introduction is strong. Walk in with confidence. Have a pace about you. Don't slither in. You were there for a reason, so you got to be bold, right? Identify the decision maker. Warmly ask the decision maker. This is important because you can't waste your time with people that aren't going to make you money. You need to maximize your field time out there. And then immediately cover the W's. Who you are, who you work for, what you do, and what you can do for the businesses. This is your elevator pitch. Don't ever depend on somebody that's sitting behind the front desk to pitch the owner of the business for you. You are the expert. You know the buzzwords. You know how to overturn the objections, and that's the most important part. And then our close. Something important to understand about the close, like we said before, it should be very simple if you've got those first few steps completed successfully. Assume the sale and get some skin in the game from the merchant. Ask for something you need to start filling out paperwork. And I always say, even if you have not gotten an okay from the merchant to move ahead, go ahead and start filling out paperwork. Go ahead and pull out the documents and get going, because the merchant is going to then start to expose any of the concerns that they have, or you need to move on to that next step. So that'll give you the ability to go back into overturning their objections, and we'll talk about that in a second, and then move back into your close. But again, that will expose any concerns that they may have if you start filling out paperwork. And I always tell my partners, it doesn't matter if you go through 10 or 15 applications a day and tear up 8 or 10 of those. That's perfectly fine. That gives you the ability to get a little bit further with the merchant, understand what their concerns are, and get everything out in the open. So don't forget, a deal is not closed until you have all your documents and paperwork in your hand. Here's some impulse factors that we like to use when speaking with merchants. These are just some tips that you can use while out there in the field. First one is fear of loss. And not everybody agrees with this, because not everybody is a one-call closer. Some people are relationship closers, and that's fine. You don't have to utilize this portion of it. But you're there today and today only. The deal you give them expires when you walk out the door. You don't have to tell the merchant that. That should be the sense of understanding that you have when you walk in and you're cold calling, that you're out there to work with that merchant today. Now, you can also expand that into setting an appointment, which we'll get into appointment setting here a little bit as well. Next is sense of urgency. Use the word today 5 times in your pitch. I promise you it will help with that understanding that you're there to help that customer right here and right now. Have spunk, be confident. Again, we talk about confidence all the time. That's so important. Hold your chest high. Best time to write a deal is right now, not later, not tomorrow, not next week. The Jones effect, we use this a lot around here. It's the most powerful factor: physical, personal, industry, and area. So I always say a Jones effect is something like this. Explain in simple terms. It's whenever you go to your friend's house and they've got the new TV or the new remodeled kitchen or a new car, whatever it is, and you're on your way home, that first thought you have in your head is, gosh, really like that car, I got to get me one. That's keeping up with the Joneses. You always want what your neighbor has, what's doing better for them, it's working for them. Their marketing program is starting to bring in more business. Their new point of sale is starting to help them with inventory and time management, which lets the owner spend more time with his family as opposed to running his business all the time. Things like that. So physical, personal, industry, and area. As you see in here, nothing gives you credibility faster. Having everyone is switching to me attitude. All of the pizza places are switching to us because of the solutions we are able to provide to them. Don't you want to get back on board with that, sir? So that's a good example. The next one is indifference. You got to play it cool. Don't use what we call commission breath. It's that desperation that they're going to be able to hear and smell on you whenever you speak. And the way that your attitude is, if you need that deal so bad, they're not going to want to sign up with you because they're going to feel like it's a desperate situation, like you're doing everything you get deal, and not to take care of them as a customer, which is our ultimate goal. So play it cool. Now we'll talk a little bit about objections. Whenever you overturn an objection, it's important to tackle them early on. The only way to overturn an objection is with speed and confidence. If the merchant senses hesitation to his inquiries, he may in turn be unsure about your knowledge of the product. And then once you've sufficiently overturned that objection, you're going to be able to re-engage back into the sales cycle and go back after that close. So each time you're presented with an objection, I'll give a couple examples on our next page, but you've got to be able to re-engage back into those and immediately go back into closing that sale once you've sufficiently overturned it. And I always say, just like everything else, if you don't know the answer, pick up the phone, call one of us. I am always available. Our management structure is always available. Our ISO support is always available to help you answer those questions if you're not sure. Now, here's a couple of examples of responses, and I'll talk a little bit about what I would say in some of these scenarios, and this gives you a couple different responses of them. I'm with my bank, and I always say that's great. I really love it. Bank of America is a fantastic bank. I always use them for my checking account as well. I've got my savings account with them. I've got a credit card with them. I think Bank of America is a wonderful organization, whether you do or not. But it's important to understand that banks don't do processing. Processors do processing and acquirers do processing. And fortunately, we are a full acquirer, which now we can give you that wholesale access to the rates that Bank of America wouldn't be able to provide because there's a middleman involved. So we pull that middleman out of there and pull the hand out of the cookie jar and allow you to go straight to the source for a wholesale type of setup. And more importantly, a bank is generally not run by independent people like myself to be able to make sure that you take care of all the time. So I am here to help you. Next is I'm happy with my current company. What I always say is, well, what is it that you're happy with? I want to understand, what is it they do better so that I'm better as a salesperson myself? Is it their customer service is better? Is it because you keep up with their sales partner all the time and they check in on you? Is it the equipment they use? Is it the solutions they have? Find out what it is so that you know what you can start to tackle as far as those objections. And I'm getting low rates. Great. What are your rates? What are you paying? Most of the merchants don't know, or they think that they have a lower rate that they really do, and say, look, all I really want to do is a rate analysis. We're going to audit your rates right now. Best case scenario, you get to work with me because I'm able to lower your rates. Worst case scenario, I'm going to come back and say, look, Mr. Merchant, you've got great rates. Stay where you're at. You look really good. If you ever look to make a change or anything ever happens, or you don't get the service you need, and I'm going to take care of you. So that's a good opportunity as well. And I'm locked in a lease. No problem. A lot of companies are locked into leases out there. The leasing is independent of their processing. So you'll be able to keep that terminal in there and keep that lease on that terminal, keep paying that. And hopefully I'll be able to come in and save you enough money to, at a very minimum, help you pay for that terminal every month and maybe put a little extra cash in your pocket after that. So a couple more that we're going to go through here. I'm in a contract. That's fantastic. Most businesses are in a contract. We actually have a portion of our program that allows us to buy out your contract for up to $250 if you can prove that you were billed that contract cancellation. No problem. Let's not let that be a speed bump. The other side of that is if I'm able to save the merchant enough money and their cancellation fee is, let's say, $300 as an example, but I'm able to save them $100 a month, that means for 9 out of the next 12 months, they're going to be profiting $100 a month at $900. And they're going to lose out on that $300 for the first 3 months. But overall, over the year, I saved them $900 over the year. So that's a big number to be able to put back in the merchant's pocket. And so it's important to put that into perspective. So it's all about making a business case for that merchant. Even if it's $1,200 and you save them $300 or $400 a month, this should make it very simple for the merchant to decide, yes, I will switch knowing that I'm going to net that, $800 or $900 at the end of the year. I get my deposits the next day. Great. We're able to do the same thing for you. We can go over cutoff times and things like that a little bit later on down the road, but let's take a look at your processing to determine if there are other things that we can improve with your service while still giving you that next day deposit. I don't want to change my current equipment. That's perfect. We can work with your existing equipment to make this a seamless and painless conversion for you. I get 10 calls a week from people like you. I'm sorry to hear that you get bombarded by our industry, but we're doing our Durbin Amendment, which is a change that's happened within the industry several years back, some of the regulations in our industry, and how we can maximize them for your benefit. Well, that's great, and hopefully I'm number 10, and I can help you out and at least save you some money on that back. We're going to talk a little bit about appointment setting. BBACs are not appointments. I'm usually here on Tuesdays all day, stop by then. Or I'm here on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, come by any one of those days. That is not an appointment, guys. Just something to understand. An appointment is on a set day at a specific time where the merchant is prepared and preferably has that statement ready for you to go. So whenever you set up an appointment, you got to give these controlled options. I'm very busy helping my other customers this week, but I have an opening on Tuesday at 9 or 10 a.m. Which one works best for you? So get specific with that. Pull out your calendar, have them pull out their calendar too. You don't want to be competing with soccer practice and dance recitals and school functions and meetings and things like that they might have forgotten about, because let's face it, I'm a guy, I forget about this stuff all the time. I'm terrible with calendar keeping. So something important, have them pull out their calendar while they're sitting there with you, and you do the same thing and mark it down. Next is, this is your pathway to a close by obtaining a statement. You got to have a statement to be able to quote rates. A good way to ask this, and it's the best way to get your first yes out of the way. You always want to get your first yes early on, so it's all downhill from there. So are your statements still being sent here? Well, it's an obvious question. Of course, this is their business. Of course, they're being sent here. Are your statements still being sent here? Great. Go grab that for me real quick. Not can you, not will you, not may, don't ask kindly. Business owners are used to telling people what to do all day long. They give orders, they give instructions, go clean this bathroom, go do this. So it's important to understand that you're in control of this situation. So go and grab me that statement. And once you get back, you can get back to what you're doing. I will have my team of analysts put together an apples to apples comparison for you. It'll take about 15 or 30 minutes. Go back to what you're doing. I'll come back with some good numbers. And then once you're ready to close the deal, we got great news here. We're able to find some really great savings for you. Nothing changes for you or your business other than a little extra money in your bottom line every month in your pocket. Isn't that great? Now, all I will need to get this set up for you is a copy of your driver's license and a voided check for you where you want those deposits to go. Start pulling out paperwork and start filling it out. That's your pathway to your close right then and there. You go ahead and assume the sale and get on it. And then networking. Really important to understand what it is and what it is not. What networking is developing connections with other people and businesses, understanding who they are and what is important to them. So now you're playing a consultant, not just a salesperson that's pushing the product that you want to push. And then listening for others. How can I help you as a business grow as well? And not necessarily just by providing your own services. So networking opportunities is a mutual relationship. It's about providing that mutual avenue of success for both parties. What networking is not, just going out there and handing out your cards to everyone you see in every business you visit. That's not networking. That's just doing leave behind and wasting a bunch of paper in my mind. And then you show up to meetings without engaging in the process. You show up for the initial parts of it, and as soon as you guys break for opportunity to start to network with the people there, you get on out of there and go on about your day. It's important to engage in the process. And then most importantly, focusing only on what you can get out of it and not what the potential networking relationship can do for both parties. So we'll talk about sphere of influence. So start with the low-hanging fruit whenever you're out there. The professionals you are already connected to, and these could be businesses you've had or former customers from other positions you've had, family members, anybody like that you might know that own businesses will get those first training opportunities out of the way and get you the ability to start your portfolio up early. We're going to go into our brief overview of product now. So what we want to do here in order to determine how we want to service a customer and how we want to set them up is ask a few questions. And it's something that I'm going to go through pretty quickly here, and then I'll go back through and explain once we get done. So the first part is if they're using a terminal. Is that terminal a IP or a dial-up? Or is it a wireless terminal? Does that wireless terminal work off of a normal handheld terminal, or is it a smartphone like an iPhone or iPad? They're using a software in the computer. Is it a point of sale system, or is it just a basic PC software that they're running? They're using e-commerce off the internet. Do they have it with a shopping cart to their website? Is it a virtual terminal, or are they doing recurring billing? And now I'll go back to these. Recurring billing could be like a lawn service company that on a bi-weekly or weekly or monthly or however often basis they do it, a gym membership, whatever that is, it charges your card on a recurring basis. A virtual terminal is just like logging into your Gmail account. You open up a website and you can run transactions through there from anywhere in the world. And then a shopping cart is something that's linked up to your website, to a e-commerce website where you want to do some online shopping. You click on it and it takes you into a shopping cart for you to purchase your items there. On the software side of things, could just be a software on your computer that runs transactions. It's hard on your computer. You don't log in like you would on a website, like I said before. The point of sale system. This is just like restaurants and bars and things like that. Could be in retail environments now. They have these tablet-based POS systems that are simple and easy to use nowadays, and that could be a software. That's what is our terminals. We've got two different versions of a regular standalone terminal. It could be through high-speed internet lines, or it could be through dial-up. A lot of these dial-up terminals are very old and antiquated, so we try to stay away from that as much as possible. And then is it a wireless terminal? Do they have a handheld terminal that goes through cell network or GPS, or is a smartphone or a iPad that we have the ability to do that? All of these are solutions that we can provide to our customers. Let's talk about terminals for just a minute. EPSG Preferred Terminal, our Deja Vu, and the Verifone line. We can also reprogram most other PCI compliant terminals in the marketplace today, so don't let that be a stopping point. And we also have a sell, lease, place, bundle program that gives you the ability to make it easier on placing these terminals or selling them to the customer and not take on massive expenses. So here's our sell, lease, pretty self-explanatory. We have a hard cost that you can sell above and beyond that, make a little extra money. We can split that out into up to 6 equal payments. We have a leasing program that will let you make a little bit more money off of those deals. And then a placement program for $12.95 a month. We can place a terminal at the merchant's location. They do not own it, but they can use it for us as long as they're with us as a processor or as a company. If their equipment gets damaged or is faulty, we can also swap it out for a new terminal based on this program. Next one is bundling. This is if we bundle the cost of that terminal into the fees that they pay, and they receive the terminal, and all of it's milked into the fees. Here's a couple more of our acquisition tools. First one is our software conversion rebate. If they're in a point of sale system or have an expense for them to switch over to us, we pay up to $250 for a technician or what have you to come out and do that. And then the next thing is if they are already in an existing contract with their existing merchant services company, we can help buy that out for up to $250, like I said before. And then very important down here at the bottom, depending on profitability and with proper supporting financials, EPSG may subsidize even more of the cost. Based on the business case, we may pay more of that. Everything's based on revenue and profitability, things like that. So also something to keep in mind there. Now we've got our gateways. A payment gateway facilitates a payment transaction by the transfer of information between a payment portal, such as a website like we spoke about before, mobile phone, or interactive voice response service. And the front-end processor. Gateways authorize credit card or direct payments processing for both online retailers, typically via shopping cart, as well as traditional brick and mortar. There are many gateways that EPSG provides as solutions for our partners. Our preferred gateway is USA ePay. This product gives our partners the best solution for most cases. Refer to Epic for additional solutions within there as well. And then we've got our mobile solutions, pretty self-explanatory. We have this both in an EMV and a swiper capability. We also have this in a Bluetooth capability where the device is actually Bluetooth into the phone and a separate device over here. So you can take EMV transactions. Mobile payments are really good for competing against Square and things like that out there in the marketplace. So this gives us the ability to give contractors, service people, anybody who's out there in the field all day, hair salons, things like that, their ability to process cards very simply, very easily. We also provide a PCI compliant solution. So payment security is paramount for every merchant, financial institution, or other entity that stores, processes, or transmits cardholder data. As of January of this 2017, it became mandated. There are many tools EBSG offers to help guard against data breaches. It is critical that most merchants utilize these tools, as a single data breach can be very costly and may ruin a retailer's reputation. All it takes is one problem to happen. If you've seen before, the Home Depots, the Targets, the Marshalls, all TJ Maxx, all of those companies that had major data breaches, they've lost millions and hundreds of millions of dollars based on these data breaches. Imagine a mom and pop single location that goes through this, even on a much smaller scale, could put them out of business for good. And so we obviously do not want that to happen. So more about security solutions. EMV, EuroPay, MasterCard, Visa. This is EMV chip card transactions. They improve security against fraud compared to magnetic stripe card transactions. The use of a PIN and a cryptographic provide authentication of the card to the processing terminal and the card issuer's host system. The associations mandated EMV compliance in October of 2015. Merchants who did not upgrade to EMV-ready hardware and software became liable for chargebacks resulting from lost or stolen or fraudulent transactions. Something to understand here is it's a liability shift. So based on how the transaction occurred is how the merchant or the issuing bank will take on that fraud liability. If you walk in as a consumer and you have a EMV-capable card, and you are ready to do an EMV-capable transaction, but the merchant does not have an EMV-capable piece of equipment, all fraud liability falls on the merchant. If you are a merchant and a consumer walks in with a card that is not EMV-capable, but your equipment is EMV-capable, and that there's a fraud on that, all fraud liability falls on the issuing bank at that point. So very simple to understand. We have full training in our Epic back office for this, so you can go through and understand EMV a little bit better. All right, now we have our point of sale systems. The next 3 to 5 years, more than 77% of merchants will convert from a traditional terminals to tablet-based POS systems. EPSG has partnered with NCR Silver, the leading provider of POS solutions for both retail and restaurant industries. This is a great product. This is a very simple, easy to use product that provides better solutions than your standard run-of-the-mill terminal. We always say about 80% of the revenue from a business goes through a terminal. There's only one thing the terminal does, and that's transact those credit card processing transactions. On a point of sale system, you can do everything from inventory to time management to gift and loyalty programs, all kinds of stuff within there, menu items, things like that, in order to make you a little bit more efficient in your business. POS sales produce higher margin opportunities and retain customers and provide a platform to upsell additional products and services. We have our marketing program. Our marketing platform is another fantastic opportunity. We always say 80% of an existing business's revenue comes from their current client base. So if we can get them in front of their current client base more intelligently to come in more often and spend more money, then a business can increase their revenue very easily. So not only are we selling our merchant services now we can go in and talk to a merchant and say, look, I'm here to talk about one of two things or two of two things, whichever one. I can either reduce your overhead or I can help you increase your revenue. Which one do you want to talk about first? So this provides new opportunities to do that. We have gift loyalty, email marketing, SMS, which is text message, and social media services. Alternative financing solutions. This is for businesses that cannot walk into a bank and get a traditional bank loan. So we provide a new avenue for them to get some cash flow in order to expand their business, get them through seasonal stuff, hire new staff for the holidays, stock their shelves, things like that. Awesome opportunity to make a lot of money. There's a lot of commission that comes off of these deals. And then we'll briefly go over our training opportunities. We have our EPSG University, which I urge everybody to go in and take a look at and explore around a little bit. There's many more trainings in there that will take a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today and expand upon it and make you the true expert. So I suggest going in there. We've got multiple avenues of training through all kinds of new informative stuff on there. We also have ongoing training out here that will go into different products and services. We have anywhere from 25 to 30 webinars a month to help you kind of sharpen that saw and become the expert. We also have our Street Talk series, which myself and Jeff Burke, who's the VP of Sales Operations there in Melville, who basically we go over what's going on the street level out there, what we're seeing, what we've learned from, tips and tricks to the trade, any new things that are happening within the industry, motivational stuff. We'll bring on some of our top sales partners to give some of their experiences, things like that. So a wonderful one. And then open forum with the president of EPSG, Brett Sturm. We'll go over a very broad Q&A session, go over what the vision of the company is, what we're looking at for future growth, things like that. Things will affect you in the field. And then the monthly training schedule is also posted on the EPSG University homepage. So I would suggest going ahead and looking at that once you get a chance. Here's our application package and process flow. Again, there's a specific training on your back office for this. This is what a complete package looks like. You've got your cover sheet, your 3 main pages of it, and all your terms and conditions. There's nothing to sign on your terms and conditions. This does not need to be submitted with your full application. These 4 main pages do. A purchase order to prove that the business is actually doing business. A statement to show us their past processing for profitability. And then a voided check. We got to know where they put their merchant, or where we put their merchant services transactions into. We have to be able to know where to put that money. And then here's your contact information. Putting those, this is also going to be in your back office as well. Here's your application process flow. Merchant account is submitted. Our data entry team will input the info into the system. Underwriting will review the information. They will then approve a deal and a merchant ID is issued. Tech support builds a file, terminal ID is issued, and then shipping will then deploy the information or the terminal if needed. Now, if there is an application that pins, i.e. you need a proof of business and marketing materials or what have you to help push the deal through, ISO support will then notify you. Requested information is received by you and sent in to underwriting, and then the merchant is approved, the merchant ID is issued, and then back into the normal part of the process. Now here's a little bit about our back office. We've been talking about that all day. Epic is our portfolio managing system designed to help you support your merchants. You can track the approval process of your new merchant accounts from start to finish. Epic includes a robust e-sales support ticketing system, which offers over 36 ticket categories to choose from. You will always remain informed with real-time notifications about your accounts. From my portfolio section of Epic, you can see the history notes on your account, settlements, chargebacks, e-statements, and much more. So very important you become familiar with this. If you haven't gone through the paperwork process yet, you will get this once you are completely through that from our welcome team, and they will take you through navigating the waters of Epic. And now we talk a little bit about what we're all here to do, which is let's go make some money here. So what we offer here at EPSG, signing bonuses and monthly residual stream. Again, going back, these are the important things you've got to recognize. You've got to price your new deals correctly to drive your stream of revenue. Quickly recognizing the revenue margin. How much are you going to make on this individual account? Apply the right amount of basis points over interchange to make more money. Upsell your equipment and utilize our product add-ons. I guarantee you, you will make more money and your merchants will stay around longer if you utilize your product add-ons. Your income potential with EPSG starts right now. Again, we pay lifetime residuals to those that earn it. We have consistent payouts every day of the week. We pay on signing bonuses on accounts that earn it and products that meet your merchants' everyday need. And this is a constantly evolving product portfolio that we have here. We're always adding new stuff to this in order to make it easier for you to sell out in the field and be more successful. And here's your contact information. You don't need to write this down immediately. This will all be in your back office, but these are your major points of contact. Main thing you need to know is our ISO support line. This is this 866-373-2249, and then all these options will get you to where you need to be. The most important one is your agent sales support. This is so important for you to be able to get all of the help that you need from our team of experts at the agent tech support team. Fax number, and here's your emails. And I wanted to be the first to welcome you to the EPSG family. As the Vice President of Sales, I hope to interact with you on a regular basis to help you improve your sales abilities, expand your career, and you build your portfolio for that ultimate goal of financial freedom. I think it's very important to utilize everything that we've provided here as a company. The environment that we provide here is very susceptible for being successful. So again, allow me to be the first one to welcome you to the family. We're proud to have you, and we look forward to working with you well into the future. Thank you.